Hey everybody.
Hey guys.
We wanted to go over our plans for this truck and also how we're baselining it. So whenever we buy a new truck, we want to go through the whole thing, find out what we really got, what needs to be repaired, and if we have any serious issues. So we're in the process of doing that right now. So wanted to share with you what we've done and what we're looking to do.
Yep.
Hey there, I'm Kelsey, that's Tim, and this is the story of our adventure. Life is fleeting, and we want to squeeze every bit out of it. We are wandering the world, so home is a bit of a moving target for us. We love finding the random, the remote, and sharing it all with you. So subscribe to get lost with us and hopefully find some inspiration to go after your own dreams.
All right, so let's take a look at the truck, shall we? All right, let's take a look at the engine. Okay, so first things first, looking at the engine and all the fluids in the truck, it's really tempting, and I find this temptation every time I buy a truck, to just trust what the previous owner said, or even the receipts they have. That seems pretty definitive, right? On this truck, I was tempted to do that, but in the end, it's just so cheap to replace fluids. They're not that expensive. So we went ahead and flushed out the brake system completely with new synthetic .4 fluid, and as we were doing it, the brake fluid came out pretty dark near the calipers. We have a receipt showing that a Toyota dealer supposedly flushed this whole system last year. Now, it could be getting dark that fast, which might point to a problem, but I'm also suspicious that maybe they didn't really flush it and they just charged him for it. Additionally, the power steering fluid was also flushed, but it looked really dark as well. So either both those systems could have a lot of the rubber lines sort of having some of the rubber come off and darken it, or other contaminants, or maybe they didn't really do the work they said they did. So I'm glad we've done it. So far, we've changed the oil. We put a new air filter in it, a new in-cabin air filter that's actually a carbon HEPA filter to really get things out of the internal air if you need it to. We flushed all the brake fluid out of the system and flushed all the power steering fluid. Next up, we're going to be doing front differential, rear differential, and the transfer case, so all new fluids in those. And we're just trying to go through everything and find out if there's any major problems. As you do all these really basic, easy to do flushing of fluids, you're just hoping you don't see anything. You're hoping that when you drain the diff, it doesn't come out super gray, filled with metal flake, or even worse, chunks. But I think it's important to do it. There's something in your head that tells you, I don't really want to do this because I don't want to find out bad news. But as soon as you do it and keep finding good news as you go, the better and better you feel. Another thing I'd recommend, not just on a 200 series, is get onto the forums and read issues that other people have had. So one that was very common on 200 series is the original radiator cracks. This one has had it replaced, and we've checked the part number and everything to make sure it's the upgraded or the replacement radiator, so we're good there. When we do the water pump and the serpentine belt, it'll get all new coolant, so I'm not going to worry about that just yet. Checking all the hoses, make sure they seem pliable and nice and rubbery still. This big plastic cover for the engine. Beneath it, there's all the different lines, and you can just make sure none of them are cracking. I do see a couple that have little cracks, so those are just notes to go ahead and order those up because they're so cheap, it's not worth letting them wait until they leak. On this truck, there's also some plastic T-valves and PCV valve that sometimes leak some coolant, so we'll go ahead and replace all those. But that was sort of what I found in the research of this truck and common issues and failures with it. And that's pretty much it. Most Land Cruisers are pretty dialed, you know, with the 80 series, the gasoline engine, the 1FZE anyways, the head gaskets go. We dealt with that on Goose and had to fix that. So it's just good to familiarize yourself when you buy a new truck with what issues it has. And the 200 is pretty stout. But those are sort of the common issues. Okay, so one other modification that we've made since we've had the truck is we replaced all the daytime running lights, low beams, high beams, as well as the fog lights. I did one of those headlight sort of refurbishment kits where you polish off some of the oxidation, so it's looking a lot better. I haven't gotten it perfect yet. I might do one more run of that. But what we did, instead of getting LEDs or HID replacements, these early 200 series had the normal halogen bulbs, so they're super cheap and easy to find, which is nice. I just wanted to get the nicest halogen bulbs I can, so we ordered up some Philips. I'll put the part numbers below or links to Amazon, which ones we got. But these headlights are fantastic. Compared to an 80 series, this isn't just twice as good. I feel like it's 3 or 4 times as good light-wise output with these Philips bulbs in this headlight housing. So for us, I didn't feel any need to go to LED or HID. If we do some sort of off-road bumper, I could see putting maybe one small light bar or a couple of small lights on there for additional off-road light. But already I'm pretty impressed with the light this truck puts out compared to other trucks we've had. So that just about does everything up here that I can think of. Let us know what questions you have, or if you have a 200 series, let us know what other issues you find to be common or what other issues you've had come up, because we've searched the forums and then you find a lot of the really common ones. But if you've had an issue with yours, I'd like to know, just to have an idea of something in the back of my head that could go wrong and that others have had it. So yeah, let me know what you think. On the rear of the truck, I'll take you there. Something I don't love on the 200 series, there's absolutely no mechanical from the factory rear hatch release. This is a little electronic button here. They use the same part number on many different Toyota vehicles. Well, ours had actually died. And so you could not open this back hatch. Maybe 1 out of every 20 times it would actually work, but not reliably. And so it's a cheap part, easy to replace, but I really do wish there was just a simple mechanical backup. At least this does have the gas struts and no electric motor to lift this tailgate up and down, but that's one of those silly things that I wish they had. I think we're going to go ahead and retrofit in a strap in here. So if we're sleeping inside the truck, there'll be a string or a strap you can pull on to release this manually and get out of the truck from the inside. Or conversely, if this broke again, we'd have a manual backup to just reach in from the rear seats there and get to it. Other things we've done is just clean like crazy. Kelsey and I have both been going crazy with this. She has gone through the floor mats 3 times now, I think. Yeah. And we rented a shop vac, or whatever you call it, a carpet cleaner from Home Depot. We went through the whole truck, and I think we're going to do the whole truck another time. This truck's super clean on the outside, super clean mechanically because it was in California and dealer maintained. But the interior was pretty trash. So much dirt into this carpet. We're not going to go the way we did with Goose, where we ripped the whole interior out and spray it with like a lizard skin, but we do really want to clean this out. I don't mind it silt and dirt being in there, but there's so much dog hair and spilled drinks and stuff like that we're going to try and get out. We have started modification-wise. We pulled the 3rd row seats. Today or tonight I'll be pulling the 2nd row seats. We'll keep those handy so we can put them back in when needed. But for the sleeping in the back and the sleeping platform, just like in the sort of early days of Goose, we're going to pull all the seats out of the back so you have a nice big flat area to work with here. We started tucking and hiding some recovery gear in here. This side is your factory toolkit on a 200 series. So I just double checked that it was all intact and everything's looking fine in there. This side, this is actually a Dyneema winch extension that we carried in Goose and then later in Dusty, the Maltec. I just am going to use it for right now as a basic toe strap. Not as good as a toe strap, but there's no kinetic whatsoever, so it should work just fine as a toe strap, just not as hardy to be dragging it on the ground and over rocks and that sort of a thing. But it's actually our old winch line from Goose before we left on the South America trip, and I just threaded some loops into the end of it with a Factor 55 fid. Fast fid, I think they call it. So that's that. Over there you can see we have the Factor 55 thimble that goes in the rear trailer hitch receiver, and that's just a safer way to tow somebody out. I would say of the hundreds of recoveries we've done over the last few years, most of them are just the simple, you know, you're aired down, they're not, or you're lighter than they are, or they're stuck in the mud and you're not. You tie up a basic tow strap and tow them out. So I want to make sure we at least had that. So that's over there. In this little cubby where the bottle jack actually sits, I've got a couple of soft shackles tucked in there. You can see one more here, 2 metal Crosby bow shackles there as well, and then still the factory bottle jack behind it. I'm just trying to tuck and use space that we have to hide some of the things that I never want to have lacking in a vehicle. Okay, so a few other things you'll notice. We have a lot of cleaning supplies and things that aren't permanent in here, but I've moved my basic toolkit over to this truck. We have a 2-piston basic cheapo compressor, but at least a way to air up the tires. In addition, I also always have a really small cheapo. It would probably overheat if you even had to fill one big tire from 0 to full road pressure, but it's sort of the backup to this one in case it fails, so we can put some air into a tire, enough to get us rolling if there was a flat tire. So I've put both of those in here permanently, and then I've stashed some gloves throughout the truck. Just can't ever have enough gloves when you're working on things. So that pretty much does it for back here. On top of the roof, we mentioned in our other video, we removed the factory roof rack. It's not that great of a roof rack for heavy loads anyways. And on this truck, we're gonna try and keep it a clean roof for now. We'll see over time if we have too much stuff or we need to carry something up there. But in general, I wanna keep it a clean roof if I can. And that factory roof rack wasn't that great anyway. So we went ahead and removed that. And there's factory parts you can buy that are weather sealed to go ahead and replace the holes that were there. So if you're gonna remove your factory roof rack, go on I Hate Mud, the forum, Land Cruiser forums, read up on how to remove it, because there's thread certs that are plastic, and if you don't do it correctly, they can fall down and sit on top of your headliner, and you have to pull your whole headliner to get back to them and put them back in their place. So definitely make sure you do the roof rack removal correctly. But that's pretty much it for the modifications so far. I'm gonna have Kelsey show you the rest of the truck, and then we'll go over some of our future plans.
All right, so up here, I'm showing you the worst part of the interior of the truck, which is the driver's seat. Just a lot of getting in and out, and it has 2 tears in it, so I'm gonna sew those up. That's my project for today, actually. And like Tim mentioned, we have done a ton of cleaning of the carpets, which has been really gross and a major project. But when we got the truck, it didn't smell so good. Now it smells good, so we're almost there with being done with cleaning everything. I've gone through literally with a steam cleaner for the seats to get all the gunk off of the leather. It was nasty, but now it's a really nice place to be. It smells good. You feel like it's clean. Again, still not perfect. There's places where paint has been rubbed off on the finishes and stuff, but that really doesn't bother us. So pretty excited that we're almost done with that portion of it and we get to enjoy a nice clean truck.
So one other thing I forgot to mention that we have already done on this truck, and we just completed it, is the lift.
You might notice that.
You might notice it's a little bit taller. We didn't go too big. Again, I want this truck to be kind of low, to handle really good at high speed and off-road, but we're not going to build a rock crawler out of a 200. So we went with about a 2-inch lift in front, and right now it's almost a 3-inch lift in the rear because we've removed those 3rd row seats, and we're going to remove the 2nd. But we'll be putting enough weight back there where I think in the end we'll end up with a pretty level truck. Yeah, but we'll see how it goes. And I always springs are cheap enough, or coils rather, are cheap enough that you can always buy a different set and it's not too big of a deal. But right now we're loving how this is set up. We went with Dobinson's, and we were such a fan with how the Maltec rode, which had a Dobinson suspension kit on it, that we wanted to do it again with this truck.
So I'll put links to what all that is down below if you're interested in what we actually used. I'll put links to everything like that down below.
Yeah, and then as we use this, we'll know more. So right now it's got the Dobinson's IMS, which is kind of their mid-grade. It's a much larger bodied shock, fully rebuildable, but no reservoirs or anything like that. I found that on Goose even, it was hard to get the really fancy Icon shocks up to operating temperature anyways. They rode great, but it just wasn't necessary most of the time.
We were doing.
Yeah, and so on this truck, we'll let you know how those break in over time and if we have any issues with them. But so far, really happy, and it's a much less expensive kit. I think the entire kit with coils and shocks, I went ahead and went into their scratch and dent section, so we'll put a link for that below as well. It's not too hard to find on the Dobinson site, but the entire kit was about the cost of 1 set of the Icon shocks we had on Goose. Now, I used to work there, so we did get a discount on Icon stuff, but it's still just something to keep in mind that when you see the retail price of 2 shocks, just the rear, just the front of the really fancy shocks, that was the entire lift kit for this. Now,
and we ran into problems rebuilding them out of the U.S., so it was actually more of a pain to have something that was that expensive that no one knew how to work on it in certain countries.
True. Unless you're in a country that does desert racing or rally raid or Dakar style racing, they don't always know how to rebuild shocks that are rebuildable, or they may not have the right seals and parts. And so for us, going with a cheaper shock is kind of nice. These are really nice shocks, don't get me wrong, but if we're in a foreign country and they blow out, I'm probably going to toss them in the trash, or the one that blows, I'll toss it in the trash and buy whatever they have at the AutoZone or the auto parts place in that country, throw it on, and it's good enough. And when we get home, we can always get another matching sort of Dobinson shock. So that's kind of our mindset on shocks these days. Nothing wrong with the really fancy ones. They're a lot of fun. So we've done that. One thing we haven't done on the lift is the upper arm. I wanted to see if I could keep it low enough if we needed to do the upper arm or not, but I think we still need to do it. So I'm going to go with Total Chaos Fabrications upper arm. I'm a huge fan of Total Chaos. Dobinson's also makes a great arm. I'm sure there's nothing wrong with it. But back in the 90s, my dream truck was a truck with Total Chaos long travel suspension. And after college, I got a chance to work with them and built up sort of my dream truck. while I was working at a place called Donahoe Racing, which is what Icon Vehicle Dynamics now is. And so all those companies in Southern California kind of know each other, became friends with the folks at Total Chaos, and I absolutely love everything that they build, and it's just such high quality stuff. So as you can tell, I'm a bit of a fanboy, but it's a great upper arm, and it's going to correct the caster as we need it corrected. And I'm not going to go with the Heim joint one. Heim joints are great, and they're really tough, but they don't absorb any shock. And so I'm actually going to go with their polyurethane, which is the cheapest of the upper arms that they offer. And I don't think we're going to do long travel or anything like that with this truck. Again, now you're getting into new axle shafts and CVs and fiberglass fenders, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so kind of just building this truck, or what we want to build this truck to be, is just a very simple, kind of what we feel like we need in a overland vehicle, you know, that can kind of do what we want to do, but it's not built over the top by any means.
Yeah, absolutely. In a sense, you could almost call it a sleeper, in a sense, a sleeper overland build, in the sense that literally we're sleeping inside of it, I guess. But what I meant it as is it's not so covered in gear. It's pretty much just a lifted SUV. And then we've got the bells and whistles sort of hidden throughout, and it doesn't draw as much attention as some trucks do. So that's one of the goals with it. Yeah. But for me, the other is, like I've mentioned in other videos, to keep the handling really good. Yeah. I want to slide around corners. It's something, you know, I always love being able to drive in a spirited way when it's safe and there's nobody else around. And I want to preserve that with this truck. Every time that we turn our truck into a home, you're really losing a lot of that go fast capability. And I want to keep that with this.
Yeah, so we really haven't had that since we changed Goose into top.
Yeah.
And Dusty was pretty good, but also
Dusty was really good for what he was, but very expensive, so you didn't hot dog him too much. And your pots and pans and your whole home would bounce around. So with this truck, we're going to have our setup for cooking and a fridge and all that normal sort of what I would call overland essentials. But it's going to be very minimalistic compared to other trucks we've had.
Yeah, so, which is the favorite way of Goose.
Yep, absolutely. So we're going back to old school Goose, or before Goose, a truck called Lulu. And so Lulu was called that because there was a dancing Hawaiian girl on the dash that would shake around. Yeah. So that was Lulu. But yeah, so that kind of summarizes where we're at on this truck and what we're looking to do with it. We'll update you guys as we go. We'll let you know what issues we have. And then, of course, I'm sure we'll change our minds as we build it and take different paths. So we'll update you.
We've loved reading all of the ideas for names. I have to say one of my favorites is Ned.
Ned Niederlander?
Ned Niederlander. Yeah. Little Neddy Goes to War.
Absolutely. Another Three Amigos reference. You can't go wrong with Three Amigos references. So we'll see. I'm not sure if we've settled on it yet. I love the Golden Goose because Goose is just sort of like close to us from having that truck so long and traveling in them. And this is sort of, let's say, a newer gold version of that. Yeah. But then even like Pony Boy and some of these other ones work really well. So let us know, keep telling us what you think his name is, and one day it'll just come to us, I'm sure. We're heading to Mexico this week, so we're going to take the Sonoran Gold 200 Series back to Sonora, make sure the paint matches up, and go help a buddy try and win a race. So we'll see you guys next time. Yeah. Thanks for coming along.
Thanks for watching. Oh no. Avoided this plant.
Evil plant.
The whole time. And then the last time I walked past it, I forgot about it. And now it's all in my jeans.
Dang it.